We have DH's personal statement, Ben. He or she also wrote in with a complaint about the LSAT Flex. You want to start here with this email?
Sure. Hi, Ben, Nathan, and team. First, I want to express frustration with my October LSAT Flex. During my test, my proctor disconnected and the proctoring session ended. I was on the third question of the second section and the testing window disappeared and the proctor chat box popped up telling me that Jesus had
Jesus,
disconnected.
Ben. It's got the little tilde on the U. That's
I
not a
didn't see
tilde.
that.
I don't know what that is. It's an
I
accent.
thought my screen is dirty. Okay. Jesus well, I kind of liked Jesus. But
Jesus has
had-
disconnected. Sorry.
You were praying and now you don't have any more help.
Yeah. Okay.
He's disconnected and that Proctor U had ended this session. I couldn't chat with Proctor U in the chat box anymore, and after a minute or so, my test screen popped back up and the timer was still running. So I did my best to try and finish. I spent about 4 hours trying to get things resolved with Proctor U after the test, and they finally agreed that there was a problem with my test and I'd have to contact LSAC. LSAC said they'd have to review the recording to make sure it was not a problem on my end. Which begs the question, if you have to review the recording anyways, why do we even need live proctors?
Which we've talked about on the show. I believe that was a listener suggestion who said, hey, why don't they just, in college, we use ProctorU, and what they do is they record our test sessions, and then if there's any weird shit, they can review it later. And then that removes this whole drama with the connection to the live proctors.
Yeah. LSAC eventually let me retest on Friday. But when I went to do the retest, LSAC never sent ProctorU the allowable materials list. So that took about an hour to get sorted out.
It's the same allowable materials list for all of these tens of thousands of people who are taking the Flex. Why is that an issue?
Yeah, it's weird. My retest proctor interrupted me twice during my retest. Once, justifiably, because my face was not completely in the frame for a few moments when I was doing a logic game. I don't even know if that's justifiable. It's kind of silly. The second time, I have no idea why he asked if I could hear him. Anyways, it was a much better experience than the first time. Hear him? Can you hear me?
Yeah, just so Jesus just pops in like, can you hear me? And you have to be like, yes, Jesus, I can hear you. Can I continue my test now?
Can I help you?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so DH continues. Secondly, I am sending in my personal statement for slaughter. I asked my husband if I should send it in, and he responded with, do you enjoy crying? Some of the best advice I've ever received has been cry, regain composure, try again. I've never heard that advice before. I'd appreciate any feedback. Feel free to use my name or redact any names that you need to for the podcast. So we don't need to redact them, but apparently it's already been redacted, so you're good. Hail to the demon. Okay. As opposed to praise the demon. We'll take it. You want to read this?
Yeah, thanks, DH. I think that's a really good attitude you have to, yeah, whatever. There's going to be some moments of suffering in life, and expect that those are going to happen, and regain composure and try again. That's great. So that really is the environment that we want to foster in our classes in the LSAT Demon, and for sure with the show. Right? Nobody's perfect. We're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes. Ben makes mistakes. In our classes especially, we really want a culture of, you're going to fuck up, you're going to make a mistake, you're going to tell us you made the mistake so that we can help you fix the mistake. But it's not just this like, we're smarter than you. How could you possibly have made that mistake. It's not what it's about. If you were perfect, you wouldn't be in class. So, okay. And if you were perfect, you probably wouldn't be sending us this personal statement. So brace yourself.
Yeah. Takes humility to ask for help, but so much better
Absolutely.
in the end.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, and have we ever seen a personal statement where we were like, this is complete trash, there's nothing to even work with here? I think we've, even with the very worst ones, we've always been able to say, hey, why don't you focus on this issue? This seems interesting. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah.
And it's not a complete failure if we tell you to trash everything but one sentence.
That personal statement, despite its failure, helped you find a
Right.
topic. That's huge. People struggle with finding a topic for months sometimes.
Right. In 2010, United Airlines and Continental Airlines announced their merger.
Okay, I don't like it. It's about two airline companies, not about you. I'm glad that it's short and that we can probably get into your statement quickly, but I'm still like, how does this relate to you?
I further don't like it that it is exactly 10 years ago.
It's a long time ago.
I'm not saying you can't talk about things 10 years ago, but the law school is getting the person that you are today, not the person that you were 10 years ago. And even if you're going to tell me about some kick-ass thing that you did 10 years ago, I'm still going to be wondering what you did since then.
Yep.
So I'm very skeptical that this is the place we want to start. She's using two spaces, Ben, two spaces between the sentences. Actually, two spaces in some
And
instances and one space in other instances, which, by the way,
yeah,
is another really good reason why you don't use two spaces.
yeah,
People who use two spaces sometimes accidentally use one or three. People who use one space tend to more consistently use one space. The modern
yeah.
standard is one space between sentences. It looks weirder and weirder when I see two spaces.
Yep.
For years following the merge, contract-bound work groups were kept separated under their parent company.
Still about other people, the companies, the work groups. What about you?
In 2016, I joined United as a flight attendant, working under a Continental contract on only Continental aircraft. It's about you, but it's like the boringest possible detail.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? No, Continental doesn't exist anymore, first of all. And the historical development of how United and Continental merged is so much less interesting than, you know, I've never read a personal statement from a flight attendant before, but I would love to read a personal statement from a flight attendant.
Mm-hmm.
Flight attendants, that's a surprisingly big job. You know, a lot of people think that flight attendant is like sky waitress,
Mm-hmm.
but flight attendant, those people are critical components of a very big industry.
Mm-hmm.
They have like security clearances. They are responsible for on-time departures, like the efficiency with which they manage the onboarding and offboarding process affects the on-time rating of the airlines. They are customer service agents. Like they are, I mean, that's the people you actually see, right? You don't really talk to the pilots. You're
Don't they
talking
also
to
have to
the,
enforce like all the rules and the
well,
FDA?
yeah, and
Or
there are
not the
security,
FDA, FAA regulations?
they're security officers that have to make really they have to make really smart decisions. You remember when we had that personal statement from the cop recently, the like hospital cop, and that sort of like discretion that they have to employ. Like, this person is becoming a problem. We are 40,000 feet in the air.
Yeah. What do
Am
we
I
do?
gonna have to, are we gonna have to land this plane so that we can get this person kicked off, so that we can get them arrested, so that we, you know, delaying 150 other people? Or am I gonna find a way to diffuse this problem? That's all so interesting. And I like, I have for a flight attendant, I would love to hear about any of those stories.
Yeah.
The merger of your two airlines doesn't. Anyway, in 2018, the two groups of flight attendants ratified a joint agreement. Again, really not about you. You had a vote probably,
Okay.
but you didn't do that. And we began flying together under radically different work rules. It was throughout the negotiation and subsequent implementation process that I realized the importance of my union, the Association of Flight Attendants, AFA. I hate this theme, Ben.
Yeah.
I hate it. The fact that you're in a union and unions have big disputes doesn't mean that you have any special, you had no role in the contract negotiation. You don't even have any special insights. I mean, yeah, you were in a union and you went through this merger, but there's a million people who, like, not all of these other flight attendants are now going to naturally go to law school. So I just don't buy this. We see this a lot. Pretty common mistake, I think. Notice how she's talking about her mindset. I realized the importance of my union. In that one sentence, you're saying you previously didn't realize the importance of your union, so you're naive. But you're also just talking about, like, oh, now you recognize the importance of your union? Who gives a shit? What? So what? That's not a compelling reason for me to admit you to my law school. You could have
Imagine. Yeah. It's like what if someone wrote in their personal statement, I came to realize the importance of checks and balances. It's like,
right.
Okay, you were like you're part of this society.
This
You're part of this group.
Yeah, this lofty rhetoric about the law. I realized that contracts were really, it's like, shut up. You don't, until you've gone to law school, you actually don't know anything that you think you know anyway. And you're missing such an opportunity here, because I would love to hear about you kicking ass as a flight attendant.
Yeah.
My contract determined not only how much money I would make, but also when I could sleep, when and where I could eat, when I could schedule doctor appointments. I tried to make the best of a worse situation. So I decided to get involved. You haven't convinced me that this is a bad situation, though. I mean, you're in a
You just said
union.
radically different work rules, but are they
You didn't say what they
worse?
were. Radically different how? I mean,
Worse. Tried to make the best of a worse
it's
situation.
a very awkward phrase anyway, so it just
Yeah.
needs to be cut. But this, you know, another big mistake, and she is running just parallel to this mistake, is I was involved in a litigation, and therefore I decided to become a lawyer.
Yep.
I haven't seen one of those that I thought was any good at all.
Yeah.
It's just awful. It's always complaining, whining, oversharing, and pretending to be a lawyer when you're not. So I think we can cut pretty much everything up to this point. If she wants to talk about her actual involvement, if that actual involvement is interesting, then maybe, but probably not. The AFA reserve.
even
Go
if it
ahead.
ends up being even if it ends up being interesting, this is a classic like buildup, right? Like then I was hired, I was
Right.
promoted. Like let's just talk about what you did when you
Yeah.
were involved.
Well, she
Say in the
started in
negotiation.
2010 when United and Continental announced their merger. But I mean, boy, the Wright brothers in 18 whatever, like she could have gone back even further if she had wanted to. Like if she's actually involved in a labor negotiation, she could just start with the part where she's involved in the labor negotiation.
Exactly.
We
Yeah.
know that airplanes exist, and we know that airlines exist, and we know that flight attendants have unions, and we know that unions have labor disputes. And yeah, so this is one of those where write 3 pages and then cut out the first paragraph or 2 or 3 until you get to the actual beginning of your story.
One other thing here. We've talked about revoking semicolon privileges for the past 100 episodes?
Yes.
Why do people still use them?
I tried to make the best of a worse situation, semicolon, so, comma, I decided to get involved. She should have it should just say, I decided to get involved.
Yep.
All that other bullshit needs to go, including especially the semicolon. Yeah, semicolon privileges revoked once again.
We're not saying it to the individual writing into the show. We're saying it to everyone. You're not allowed to use them.
You're not allowed to use them. I revoke myself frequently. I still do overuse semicolons, but I write it and I look at it and I go, really, dude? Do you really need that? Could that have just been a period? Or could half of this just be deleted anyway?
Gone. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. The AFA Reserve Committee chairperson in the Washington, D.C. Council trained me as a reserve committee volunteer.
Okay, that's what someone else did. What did you do?
Yeah.
You received training.
Right. And it's as a reserve committee volunteer. I mean, that kind of makes me think, oh, you didn't really do anything though, right? Like
you're like on call if
you're
necessary.
on reserve to volunteer. And what did you do? You got some training. I think this whole first paragraph can go. I don't see any reason to keep any of it. Okay. Second paragraph. With the new contract implementation, I hate sentences that start with with.
Yeah, it's that with. With this good weather.
Yeah.
With impending doom.
I think we have a rebuttable presumption here.
Yep.
That your sentences should never start with.
Yep.
It's on you to prove to me why you need to start that sentence with. And until you can give me a good reason why you need to, the default is going to be just don't do that.
Well, if you force yourself to use a different word like after or because, it also forces you to change the rest of that phrase, right? Like after, well, here actually you could do it.
I think after or because would both be better because they say something. With doesn't say shit. Like
concurrent?
Well,
what does
right.
It mean?
It's with means like correlation.
Yeah.
But was it causation or was it before or after? Or was it like, could you say something more interesting than with?
Yeah.
Okay. With the new contract implementation, I was converted to reserve status, space, sad little dash, space, on call 24 hours per day, comma, 18 days per month, space, sad little dash, space. People need to learn the M dash, Ben. The keyboard shortcut on a Mac is Control Command Dash. No.
I think it's Option Control Dash.
Yeah, when I'm typing, I do it naturally. Sorry, I had exactly the wrong keys. It's Shift Option Dash on a Mac, and it creates that nice big M dash. And when you use the M dash like that, you don't put spaces around it. And that's what you meant to do here. And everybody needs to start doing that in their writing. I love an M dash.
Uh-oh. Don't say that.
I know, sorry.
We're going to get like M-dashed statements.
Yeah.
They are. I love them too. They have a good purpose, especially in sentences that are longer than normal, but maybe rightfully so for whatever reason, and it allows you to organize the information. But
Never ever parentheses, by the way, but M dashes do have a place. But you can't use the sad little dash, and you don't use spaces.
yeah,